Welcome everybody to Grizz's first YouTube campaign, where we're going to be playing as the Arveni on hard mode. The initial challenge is hard, and it can be if you get caught off by the Iberian factions, if they invade you pretty early. But in general, this campaign is a nice, good starting point, I think, for my YouTube channel. I am going to be using a few mods. Nothing that adds in new units or anything like that. We have the Talents, Traits, and Toadies mod, which I recommend to everybody who plays this game on campaign. It is a great mod. It really diversifies and enhances each of your general, especially when combined with the 4 turns per year mod with season effects that I'm using. It really gives a greater sense of attachment to each of the generals, because they live much longer, they have much more impact on the map, and I find, maybe the game's not balanced for 4 turns per year, but I find it a much more enjoyable experience. There's also just a bunch of picture improvements, like I have better agent cards, better building icon traits, better event pictures, the modern map, and I'm using the Sell Slaves mod because I find slaves utterly useless without it, and there's literally no point. I also have the Dresden's sack and diplomacy mod. It's the full version, so I can create satrapies out without being an Eastern faction. I usually don't do it, but I like having the option of sacking a city whenever I want, no matter no matter what faction I'm playing as, which is why I use that mod. So without further ado, we'll get started. And I'll see you guys on the campaign map.
Your old rivals, the Aedui, are forever seeking to thwart you. If they will not join your cause, then you must march upon Rebate and take it by storm. You may find support from your Pictonaires allies, but remember that your enemies also have support. Seek the allegiance of other Gallic tribes and crush all who oppose you. Gaul must be unified. Trade with the Greeks of Massilia will bring you wine and wealth, but maintaining contact with Mediterranean powermongers will inevitably lead to conflict. By Tudatis, they will feel the might of united Gaul. So speak the Arveni.
By Tutates. Alright, so yeah, that's a little nice overview of the Arveni starting position. The Arveni are a barbarian faction that focuses primarily on heavily armored sword infantry, mostly. In the beginning of the game, you start with the ability to recruit Celtic warriors out of your Artisan's Lodge, and you can upgrade that immediately to start recruiting spear warriors. We will expand and build a farm because we have no food to start the game with, and we will go into technology and we will immediately begin unlocking what are we looking for? We're going to unlock our champion first. If you look at our political overview, we have 3 generals, one who's 38 years old, who is our faction leader, and we will promote him for free. These promotions, if you're new to the game, they basically are passive traits that your character, these promotions don't go away. They're stacking traits you can, eventually you'll have to pay for. The next upgrade, as you can see, costs 520. Each successive one costs more and more, but they're more and more powerful. So instead of just 1 gravitas per turn and a couple of bonuses, you now gain now it's 2 gravitas per turn, double the tax rate, the same public order in the province, but you gain authority and you increase your upkeep reduction. So I'm going to get both of those upgrades for the guys who can. You must be 20 years old, right? Yes, 20 years old to get one. So I have an 18-year-old general who is slightly ambitious, but hasn't done much yet. He has a decent trait. Modesty's not bad either. And constancy is not bad either. There is a political faction that I'm opposing. It's just called the Other Chiefs. So these are the chiefs that are not part of the Elder Council that still have some say in what goes on, and you must maintain a balance as Arveni. You don't want to get too high on a percentage of faction power, or they can go into a civil war. You don't want to be too low, or they can go into a civil war. So you want to keep it around between 60 and 70% at all times. Like right now is a very nice spot. It's a little on the high side. You would probably want to keep around 65. You can also adopt other faction members. You can marry them into your faction if you think it's too high. It would lower my hold on our faction by a few votes, but it costs money. You can also adopt them if they're not the faction leader, and the higher rank they are, the more money it costs. The leader for the other chiefs is 55, so he doesn't have much time to live, so letting him level up isn't that big of a deal. Because even if he does gain some gravitas, we need to lower ours anyway, and we need to lower our faction control, and he's kind of old, so he will die eventually. You start out the map. We'll go into diplomacy, so we can get a nice start. Here I am in the white. The white is whatever faction you're clicked on, if you're new to the game. So the Arveni are a sword-based, high-armor, barbarian faction that start in central Gaul with a gold mine. And your goal is to confederate or conquer all of the Gallic tribes and conquer everywhere, or all the major regions. So you have to conquer Iberia, Italia, Germania, Gaul, Thracia, and Galatia. So you do take a good chunk of the map. The only place you don't need to go is to the east, into Africa, and into the nomad territories. Including Britannia, everywhere else is a good place to invade. Britannia will make you a lot of money if you can take it, because it is a very safe location. You can turn that into either a food pit or a money pit. But we'll get to that when we get to it. The first thing we want to do, since we start out at war, the red means if they're dark red like this with a red box for their name, that means you're at war with them. If they're a red with a white box, that means they just dislike you, and you can always view why they don't like you by hovering over their icon. So you can see that they don't like us because we've trespassed against them in the past, even before CA has implemented historical, or attempted to implement historical accuracy in the starting locations. Some of them don't make much sense, and a lot of them are just for game purposes. But as you can see, we start at war with the Aedui. You can see that down here. When your enemies tab, you have a military allies tab. Military allies count towards your victory conditions because you're considered part of the same, I don't want to say the same empire, but you're the same military force. So you're fighting for the same thing. Defensive ally is defensive. You only get called into wars if your ally is attacked by somebody else, and that does not count towards your victory conditions. So the first thing we're going to do is get rid of our initial enemy, the Aedui, or Aedui. I forgot how they said it. Again, pardon me if I mispronounce anything. I'm not an expert in ancient languages or how to say these names properly. So what we're going to do is we're going to put all of our troops into this army, and we're going to recruit some swordsmen initially, because again, we have the building to let us do that. And we won't upgrade first turn, but what we will do is we're going to go meet Rome, which some might not think that's a great idea. The general idea is we want to meet as many Mediterranean powers as we can early in the game, so we can get some trade with them early as possible, so we can make as much money as early as possible. Remember to pop your guys into the intelligence stance every other turn, so you can gain some experience so while you're moving around the map, so you can do the occasional spying activities that you need to do. So again, we recruited 3 of them. We have built a farm. Do we really need the spear warriors is the question. We won't be fighting any horsemen for a minute, so we don't necessarily need them, but they're much better than our Levy Freemen. Even though Levy Freemen are very useful, they're poor in melee. Yeah. Yeah. So we'll end our turn here. We'll save a little bit of money by not building that building yet. Next turn we can, if we want, we can upgrade our village to a level 2 trench mine, which will it'll increase our gold per turn and our growth per turn by a significant amount. Well, that is something to consider. So we'll end our first turn, and it should go pretty smoothly. Usually people don't declare war on you immediately. So here we go. The Aedui won a peace treaty because they know they're about to die, seeing my army on their border. It's a moderate chance of success, so it's always okay if you want to offer them some money for a confederation. Remember, in the beginning of the campaign, they said confederation is your ultimate goal. I completely agree. There's no point in destroying all the different Germanic or Gallic factions if you don't have to. If you can take their cities without having to fight a battle, it is always better than having to fight the battle, because you don't know what will happen in each fight. So here we go. We got our 3 Celtic warriors, and we have our agent here. Now what we can do here is try to sacrifice, or try to hit this city. It only has 10 units. We have 14, and we can buy some mercenaries. This first battle is relatively simple. So we're going to just skip ahead, and we are going to try to meet all the factions that we can. Or we're going to come this way. We're going to walk down into Italy, and probably go here. We have met 3 factions, the Helvetii, the Insubres, and the Marcomanni. The Marcomanni nobody likes. I find a nice way to begin the game is to just declare war on factions that nobody likes. It is a nice little trick. When you declare war on somebody, you obviously gain relations with people who don't like them. If you could pick a faction like Epirus or the Marcomanni, or who's another faction that nobody likes? Carthage, depending on the scenarios that you're seeing in Iberia. Rome, if they're losing, declare war on Rome immediately. It's very useful. We're gonna grab 2 swords, 2 cav, and we're gonna go attack the city. We're gonna just auto resolve. We're gonna lose 20% anyway. Oh, maybe not 20%. Well, we'll attack anyway. Hopefully we just lose some mercenaries. Mostly. Now we can subjugate them, because I'm using the Dresden's diplomacy mod. It gives us more options. Normally you wouldn't be able to subjugate these guys at all, but we're just going to occupy, because this is a Gallic area, and they are our enemies, and they will dislike us for the rest of the game either way. So what we do here is we disband all the mercenaries we just bought, because we don't need to pay the ridiculous upkeep. Remember that, guys. The upkeep, look at these, 167 a turn for a mercenary Gallic warrior, compared to my Celtic warriors only 78. Same with mercenary light horses, 270 a turn, and normally light horses are only 108 a turn. So you're paying a significant increase in price for these units. So I usually disband them immediately. And here we can see my guy gained a heroic savior trait. He gained the likes to scrap trait. So since this is our second, this is not our faction leader. Remember, this is Illustros, who has earned another promotion. If I want to spend 500 more gold, he can be increased in rank, which I'm not going to do. Since he is our second general, and he starts out with 1 cunning, we are going to... I like to kind of roleplay these characters based on what kind of skills they start with. Well, since he started with 1 extra cunning for being modest, we're going to make him either a tactician, an administrator, or a logistician. Now, logistician's pretty good. I find the best one of that is replenishment rate, and then there's an armor and ammo increase. Camp Advisor Administrator is really only good if you're buying a lot of mercenaries or you need to raise a brand new army up all the time. And Skilled Tactician, I find to be the best because you can do night battles. Night battles are huge. You can go from a 2-on-1 fight to a 1-on-1 fight just by ticking a button for night battle. Night battles remove the ability for reinforcing armies to reinforce. Is really what they do. If you strip it down to its bare bones. Another tip I like to give people is to merge and dismantle units you don't need. I didn't need a 17-man Levy Freeman that's going to cost me 150 upkeep more than it's worth if I just recruit a new one. So what we'll do here, we're going to grab some Celtic Skirmishers. We'll grab 2 of them. Yeah, we'll grab 2 of them. We'll disband these ones and we'll grab a regular Slinger. And that right there should be enough. Eventually we are going to get the Wood Builders because it'll allow us to get the Ballistas and the Gallic Hunters. Actually, we could get that next. We will get that next, actually. That is very useful. Having the Gallic Hunters immediately in the beginning of the game gives us a 150 range archer unit on turn... What would that be? Turn 7? When you can actually use them. Very, very useful. And now we have exactly enough, almost exactly enough money to start getting our Spear Warriors, which is going to be nice. Again, these aren't necessary. So back to my original point about the Marcomanni. So we can declare war on them now, and we will gain the favor of the Helvetii and the Sequani. And if you look at our objectives, we have completed one of our bonus objectives, which is destroying them, the Aedui right here. We have to gain a defensive or military alliance with the Sequani, which are our next-door neighbors to the northwest. And the only way to really do that is by joining their war against the Marcomanni, because they are very reluctant in the beginning of the game, especially on the higher difficulties, on harder and up. They're very, very difficult to get any kind of trade agreements with, or any kind of treaties with, without paying them money. So we're going to try that. And then we also can establish a trade relation with Massilia. Now, establishing a trade relationship with Massilia sounds like a good idea. We like each other. We'll see how much these trades worth. It's worth 51 gold a turn. You know, a couple turns in, we'll have a few hundred extra gold. But the problem with that is the Helvetii absolutely hate them, and the Volcae will declare war on us for being friends with them. So what I like to do is just let them sit there on their own until I conquer either the Helvetii or the Volcae. Once I do that, I decide what I want to do with Massilia. Sometimes I make them into a client state or a satrapy, depending on if I want to use the satrapy trait or abilities or not through the mod. If I make them into a satrapy or a client state, there is a mod I recommend using. I'm not using it this playthrough. It's called More Levies. It actually makes client states and satrapies useful. You can recruit out of them like you can with mercenaries. You walk into the province, you buy 5 or 6 units instead of 1 or 2 like you normally can. It's kind of fun. I used it on my last campaign I played. I made the Swabia into a client state and just bought a bunch of Wolf Warriors when I normally wouldn't have been able to. It's a good mod. Again, I recommend it, but I'm not using it this playthrough because I wanted to try and not add new units to the Arveni. Yeah. So you'll see, in a couple turns, we'll have the ability to start stretching out either farther north or we'll go farther south. Again, we will declare war on the Marcomanni, but we're going to try to do it through the Sequani. Well, for trade, we will join the war against the Marcomanni. They won't do that. See, they kind of want me to do that. They will do a non-aggression pact. Will they do a defensive alliance? No, they will not. Can we do a military access for it? No. Alright, so we'll try non-aggression pact for joining their war. They have accepted. Now we'll try military access. They have accepted. We'll try defensive ally. They rejected. Trade. No. Alright, so we have a non-aggression pact and we join their war. Now you might think that's a bad idea. You just join the war. Well, they're off screen. They can't even see me yet. They don't even know where I am. I'm sure they can get the AI knows where you are, but if it was a player who never played the game before, they wouldn't even know where I am. So that's going to be the end of this turn. Next turn, our farms should be done. We shouldn't... Huh, I got an achievement, Relic of the Past. Wonder what that is. We'll check for that in a second. I've earned a few achievements today. See, now here's the Massilians. They want military access. I'm going to decline. Remember, yes, you can trade with them, but it just makes everybody else more angry with you. Alright, emergency measures have started. We can now recruit a champion. We have a slaughter champion, which is pretty nice. A line of set champion, which is not that useful. And a harass champion. See, now what I found is the last one on the end is usually the youngest. So we're going to try this. We're going to get the assassinate one. We'll look her up. She's 17 years old and she's very efficient at slaughtering and coercing people, which is the third best thing a warlord can do, in my opinion. The best thing, of course, is put them in your army, increase your training, increase your experience in your units through military training. The second best thing, in my opinion, is the raid function, the raid and harass, the cunning one, which was my first option. Here, I'll show you. This is, in my opinion, the second most important thing that you can do. Increases your income from raiding. It also increases... literally, raid is sabotage for every single building in a city. You hit all the buildings. Not just one, all of them. So you can shut down... You hit Rome with a 10-star harass base warlord, all their stuff is broken. All their buildings. And not just kind of broken, they're like destroyed if they're max rank. So that's very useful. And then the harass ability, when you max that out, you can cut an army's combat efficiency in half. It's minus 55% or better, depending if you have extra bonuses. Like if you get to level up this agent's trait, it could be even higher. So I think that's very, very good, but it's also the hardest skill up because you start with only one cunning. So you actually have to use your zeal to level up your cunning. So you stay around 45% accuracy to level 4 or 5. So up here we have a few units. We're only making 200 gold a turn here. We can actually turn this tax off if we want and help us increase our public order faster, which will actually do that. I find that's actually a nice thing to do sometimes. Since I don't want to forget my spy out here. So we'll send him down here. And we'll send you here. All right. The Rati and the Liguria. Again, we're pretty low on money. But next turn, we'll be able to start doing some other stuff. We'll recruit 2 Celtic swords. And next turn, we should be able to turn taxes back on up here, because it'll be the positives. I'm a big fan of public order. Like, I will sacrifice 300 gold to have more public order. Like, that, to me, is worth it. I mean, you'll spend 1,400 gold to gain 2 public order. Why not lose 300 gold to gain 20? That's kind of the way I look at it. If you don't agree with me, let me know, obviously. We have now met Rome, the Etruscans, and the Veneti. Rome doesn't like us, I'm pretty sure. We could check. Yeah, Rome's natural cultural aversion to me is minus 10, which isn't that big. Usually when I meet them, it's around, like, if I don't meet them right away, it's, by the time I get to them, like, negative 50. So, ooh, who's this? So my starting agent's also good at assassinating, which is kind of and he's old, so it's kind of a pity. So since he's already old, we might as well just go in his specialization instead of changing it. Yeah, so we're gonna send. We don't want to meet Carthage yet, so we're gonna send this guy around this way. We don't want to meet Carthage because that gives us another guy who will probably just dislike us because we know who Rome is. Here we go. Now we turn the taxes back on here. Boom. There we go. And we're making 1400 again. And we are going to put this guy in this army. We're not going to upgrade the enclosed land into a field. We're going to upgrade it into a horse pen, but we need the money for it, which we won't have till next turn. And since we only are going to need 600 gold at the end of this turn to be able to build it next turn. Ooh, actually, we're going to need... We want to have enough to do both, would we? It's 2,000, right? Yeah, 2,000 and 1,650. Okay, we will. Alright. If we can just find some money. We need 1,000 gold. Who can we get 1,000 gold off of? The Helvetii, huh? No, they don't want to deal with us. Hey, Sequani, do you want to trade yet? No.
Our gods whisper to me that I must reject your offer, worthy though it was, and hope for something more.
We'll see how little money we can give them.
The spirits do not approve. I cannot.
Huh.
You have an honest tongue.
That's interesting. You have to also pay attention to the type of AI the computer has. So you'll look at these guys, so Trivari, they have Expansionist, and they have Unreliable. These, as far as I could tell, they don't ever change. As far as I could tell. These are kind of just like the default conditions, I guess, of each faction. So there, yeah, Rome's always Expansionist, Devious. Trivari should always be Expansionist, Unreliable. At least that's what I think. If I'm wrong, please let me know again. I really would rather save the money for the horse pens, but I really also want to get the hunters and ballista immediately. Toughie. It's a toughie. Well, we'll end the turn here. We don't really have anything else we need to do. And I think this is where we will stop the first episode. No, I mean, I would love to trade and be non-aggression and military access with you guys, but I can't. Sorry. Alright. So yeah. Peace negotiated. This is not good. I was going to end up killing them eventually. The Bronze Workshop is done. The horse pen started. What do we get next? Next we probably should get growth in all of our regions. We're going to knock out these two so we can grow quicker. And we'll buy 2 more Celtic warriors, and this will be the end of our episode. Here we go. We've encountered the Nori. Alright, so yeah, here we go. End of the turn. I'll see you guys on the next episode. Thanks for watching.